Am I an idiot number 3? Am I an idiot for not wanting to buy my 12-year-old son the latest iPhone, even though my husband thinks I should? So, I'm a mom of a 12-year-old son, and I've always tried to raise him with a sense of responsibility and not spoil him with the latest gadgets. Recently, though, my husband and I got into a huge argument over whether or not we should get him the newest iPhone. Let me explain. My son has an iPhone, just not the newest version. It's a 3-year-old one, but it works perfectly fine. He uses it mostly for texting, playing games, and calling friends. Honestly, I don't see the need for a 12-year-old to have the latest, most expensive phone, but my husband thinks I'm being unreasonable. He says that it's normal for kids today to want the latest tech, and we should just buy him the new iPhone. He thinks it'll help our son fit in and be happy and all of that. My husband also argues that if we don't get him the new phone, it might cause issues with his friends or make him feel left out. He insists that it's just a phone, and what's the harm? I tried explaining to him that I don't want to spoil our son or make him think he can get whatever he wants, just because it's the latest thing. I told him the phone my son already has works just fine, and there's no reason to get him the newest version just because it's out. He's 12, not 16, and I think he should learn the value of not needing to have the most expensive things just because they're popular. The argument got pretty heated. My husband called me out of touch and said I was being too strict and old-fashioned. He even said that I was making a big deal out of nothing, and I shouldn't be punishing our son for wanting the same things other kids have. He's been giving me the silent treatment ever since, and I honestly feel like I'm in the wrong here, but I just don't see why I should cave on this. Now, I'm second-guessing myself. Maybe I'm being too hard on him. Everyone else around me seems to think that I should just let it go, but I really don't want to start giving in every time he asks for something expensive just because it's trendy. So, am I an idiot for not wanting to buy my 12-year-old the latest iPhone? Am I an idiot for calling off my wedding after discovering my fiancé has a secret child? I have been with my fiancé, Hay Seinberg, he's a Breaking Bad fan, for 5 years, and we've spent the whole year 2024 planning our wedding. Things were perfect, or so I thought. After the new year, while helping him clean out his office, I stumbled upon a stack of old letters addressed to him. I was so curious that I opened one and discovered they were from a woman claiming he was the father of her 7-year-old son. At first, I thought it had to be a mistake. When I confronted him, he admitted everything. He told me that he'd had a brief relationship with this woman before we met, and that the child is his. He confessed that he's known about his son for years, but chose not to tell me because he didn't want to complicate our relationship. He also claimed he occasionally provides financial support, but has no active involvement in the child's life. I was devastated. Not only did he keep such a massive secret, but his lack of involvement in his child's life made me question his character. I couldn't stop imagining what else he might be hiding. Despite loving him deeply, I've decided to call off the wedding. I feel betrayed and can't imagine building a life with someone who would keep something so significant from me. He is begging me to reconsider, saying he's ready to be open about everything and involve his child in our lives. Still, I can't shake the feeling that trust is broken beyond repair. Am I the asshole for calling off the wedding? Or should I give him another chance? Am I the idiot for outing my wife as a late-blooming lesbian? I am recently divorced after 22 years, when my wife unexpectedly served me with divorce papers last year. I always felt I was a good husband and an excellent dad. I took pride in this, and it was my identity. We were both often complimented by family and many friends. We stuck together and worked to solve really complex issues. We lost our first child to SIDS, raised twins to adulthood, and still have a medically complex 15-year-old whom we share custody of. I understand that intimacy, even in the best situations, can lessen over time, but excluding a few mutually drunk nights, my ex was completely disinterested for a decade. She made comments like, "If only I had a sister wife that could handle your needs and wants," or, "The bedroom is always too cluttered to feel romantic surrounded by a mess." I made multiple efforts to clean the house and even hired a cleaner, but nothing changed. Finally, after a heart-to-heart conversation, she told me she was not attracted to me and was interested in women. She introduced me to the term late-blooming lesbian, which I looked up and learned is far more common than I realized. The problem was, she chose not to share any of this with her family or our kids. I eventually grew fed up and decided to tell her very religious mom and brother. I even showed them pages from her diary to prove it. So, am I the idiot for revealing a key factor in her life that they had no idea about? Am I the idiot for exposing my husband's best friend and breaking my best friend's heart? I, a 34-year-old woman, recently got married, and my best friend, also 34, was my bridesmaid. She had just come out of a 10-year relationship and engagement. Following one of the toughest years of her life, she's been trying to heal and move forward. My husband, a 45-year-old man, had his best friend, also 45, as his best man during our wedding weekend. At our gathering in Big Sur, my best friend and my husband's best friend connected. Although they didn't hook up then, they started spending time together after we returned to LA. It was like watching two people fall in love. They were giddy, always holding hands, and constantly texting. They acted like a couple whenever they were together. Even after my best friend returned to her home abroad, they stayed in touch. He even visited her in Austria after our wedding reception in September. But soon, things started falling apart. His behavior became inconsistent. For his birthday, my best friend sent him a heartfelt, personalized gift, a poem and a carefully chosen present, but he didn't acknowledge it until she asked about it days later. He made no effort to reciprocate her thoughtfulness. Over time, he started giving her mixed signals, making plans to meet every 4 weeks but then pulling away and acting distant. In late December, she came back to LA and stayed with me for my birthday. He barely made an effort to see her during her 2-week visit, using excuses like his kids and the holidays. When they were together, he was cold and distant. On New Year's Eve, she ended up at his house but later said she regretted it, as it only added to her confusion and hurt. For months, she's been calling me, trying to make sense of his actions. She's even tried ending things with him several times, but he always resists, saying, "No, that's not fair," or promising to call back and discuss it, only to not follow through. Despite many opportunities to end the situation, he hasn't. Last week, I overheard a conversation between my husband and one of their mutual friends. The friend revealed that my husband's best friend's ex-girlfriend, whom he dated on and off for 2 years after his divorce, is back in the picture. This ex is someone he's spoken poorly of in the past, so I assumed they were done for good. Learning this was a gut punch. I'm furious. He has disrespected, mistreated, and strung along my best friend while seemingly rekindling things with his ex. I feel so betrayed and have completely lost respect for him. I would never have introduced my best friend to him if I had known this was who he is. Now I'm torn. My husband wants me to keep this information to myself, saying it will only hurt her and doesn't need to be shared. But I feel like this could give her the closure she's been searching for and help her move on from this painful, confusing situation. Am I the idiot for ignoring my wife for the day after she was physical with me? A little context. My wife, 30 years old, and I, 32, have been together for 10 years and married for 4. She has always struggled with getting very emotional and irate about things. But both of us were raised in abusive environments, so I've always tried to be understanding. This past Thursday night, she became annoyed with me. To be fair, I can be annoying sometimes. I was kind of messing with her and bickering a bit while we were sitting in bed. At some point, she laid down fully, and I did too, putting my arm around her. She told me to get off her, but I hugged her and jokingly said, "What, you don't love me now?" She then dug her fingernails into my arm, grabbed my fingers, and started twisting them, telling me she'd break them if I didn't leave her alone. After that, she stomped out of the room and went to sleep in the guest room. The next morning, Friday, I let our dogs out and went into the guest room to wake her up for the day. I sat on the edge of the bed, but she jumped up, grabbed and shoved the back of my head and tried to pull me off the bed, telling me to get off her comforter. Honestly, I was shocked, so I just left the room. About 10 minutes later, she came downstairs. I told her that I wanted an apology for the way she acted and for putting her hands on me. She ignored me, went upstairs, and didn't say a word. At that point, I told her fine. She made her bed, and I wasn't going to speak to her for the rest of the day until she apologized. Am I in the wrong here? Or should I be treating this situation more seriously? I know I'm a man, so I can take my share of physical stuff without being hurt. But I feel like I shouldn't have to, especially given how abused I was during the first 20 years of my life by my family. Am I the idiot for living in my boyfriend's house without his brother's approval? My boyfriend's house isn't technically his. It belongs to his father. His father doesn't live here, but my boyfriend has been living in the house for a long time, providing end-of-life care for his grandmother, his father's mom. My boyfriend invited me to move in after I stayed here briefly because of issues with an insufferable roommate at my apartment. Tonight, my boyfriend's brother and father paid an unexpected visit. We cleaned, hosted, and entertained them. Since moving in, we've only improved the house, repairing walls, painting, and installing new ceiling fans. While my boyfriend's father has known I'm living here and has been welcoming, his brother was a different story. After several drinks, he dropped a bombshell saying I don't belong here, that I need to move out immediately, and calling me offensive names like stupid kabia, baka, waha, among other things. He accused us of tearing up the house and making it look like a crack house, just because my boyfriend's workout equipment is in the living room and I hung a few paintings in the hallway and living room. His ranting continued for a long time, growing worse after my boyfriend had gone to bed, exhausted from deep cleaning the house to make it extra nice for their visit. The brother was crying, yelling, and cussing at me to the point that my boyfriend's father packed up their belongings, took their 2 dogs, and left to stay at a hotel. During this ordeal, my boyfriend's father repeatedly told his son to calm down and stop taking it out on me. However, he also mentioned to me that I should have asked for his permission before moving in. From what I could tell, my boyfriend's brother, in his mid-20s, seemed to be projecting his frustrations about his own life onto me, complaining about providing for his wife and child, working long hours, and paying a mortgage. His father even justified some of his behavior, which made the situation feel even worse. I plan to move out very soon, but do I deserve to be yelled at, cussed out, and called horrible slurs by my boyfriend's younger brother? Am I the idiot for living in my boyfriend's house? AITAH for getting kicked out of friends group? Almost a year ago, I got kicked out of my friends group. We've all been friends for almost 15 years. I got engaged, and of course I asked them to be my groomsmen. Around a month or so before my wedding, one of my friends was being kinda dickish. But whatever. Somehow we got into an argument where he basically said he couldn't care less about my wedding and he would pass it through his balls. Spanish expression. That pissed me a little, and I told him if he doesn't care that much, why is he even bothering to show up for my wedding? He immediately blocked me everywhere and kicked me out of the whole friend group as he was the only admin. He literally took everyone's admin years before, and only he could edit group pictures and whatnot. Everybody was like WTF, but nobody really did anything about it. I even made a 2.0 version of the group with everyone. So I got married and a year passed. But my friendship with my other friends is kinda gone now. One of them reaches and stuff. But I told him that I feel like they chose a side as they still hang with the guy who kicked me out, and they still have their group chat. I even left the 2.0 as one of them left it, and it was clear to me that maybe their friendship with him is stronger or whatever. I'm terribly embarrassed as we're in our 30s, and this feels like a child's play. But it's been over a year and I'm thinking maybe our friendship wasn't real at all. I even regret making them groomsmen as I have to live with those pictures. I am the asshole for this? Am I an idiot for refusing to let my brother bring his new girlfriend to my wedding? My wedding is in 2 months, and my brother, Jake, recently started dating someone. They've been together for about 3 weeks. I met her briefly during a family dinner, and she seemed nice enough. However, my fiancé and I decided early on to have a small, intimate wedding, which means we set strict rules about +1s, limiting them to long-term partners only. Jake initially didn't have an issue with this and seemed to understand our reasoning. But last week, he asked if he could bring his new girlfriend to the wedding. I reminded him of our original agreement, and while he seemed to accept it at first, he's now been calling and texting nonstop, trying to convince me to make an exception. He says things between him and his girlfriend are getting serious very quickly, which is why he feels she should be included. While I feel bad and want to support him, I don't think it's fair to other guests who weren't allowed to bring new partners. I don't want to set a double standard and risk upsetting anyone else. This has started to create tension between us. Jake is clearly upset, and some family members think I'm being unreasonable for not bending the rules for him. Am I the asshole for sticking to my original wedding guest rules and not letting my brother bring his new girlfriend? AITAH for letting my best friend pursue a girl, but getting with her when she chose me. A few weeks ago, my best friend and I met a girl at a Christmas get-together. She was super friendly, not in an attention-seeking way, just genuinely nice. I found her adorable, and apparently so did he. After the event, I told him I wanted to make a move on her. Turns out he felt the same way. This wasn't unusual for us, as we've both been interested in the same person before. To settle it, we played a quick round of rock, paper, scissors. He won, and I agreed not to pursue her. The thing is, before we even played, she had asked for my Instagram and sent me a request on her private account. She accepted my request almost immediately, but when I gave her info to my friend afterward, it took her a few days to accept him. Once she did, he tried to strike up a conversation by replying to one of her highlights, but she was super dry and uninterested. Despite this, when he asked her to join him at a white elephant party hosted by a mutual friend, she got excited and agreed to go. However, she casually asked him if the people from the other party, aka me, were going to be there. The night of the party, I came separately. She arrived with him but seemed quiet and awkward around him. When I went over to say hi, she lit up and started chatting enthusiastically with me about music and other topics. I didn't want then to ruin my friend's chances, so I kept excusing myself from the situation, even though it felt a little forced. Near the end of the night, I found myself alone in a semi-empty room when she came up to me. She asked why I'd been avoiding her, and then flat out said, "I want you, not your friend. I've been looking for you all night." I was a few drinks in by then, and in the moment, I thought, if she's really not into him, I'm in the clear. So, I kissed her. Unfortunately, right as we kissed, my friend walked in. He was furious. She didn't seem to care, but he immediately accused me of ruining his chances. Later, he told me the night was going well, and they'd even planned to go back to his place. He insists she would never have said what she told me and refuses to hear me out or believe me. I value this friendship a lot, but I also don't think he should be this upset over someone who clearly wasn't interested in him. So, I am the asshole? Well, what do you think about these stories? Share your opinion and tell us what cases you had where you needed to make sure you weren't an idiot if you want to, of course. Until the next video, see you.